Hello and thanks for joining us this week on Agenda 2030. I am Toyin Nkamiang John. The task of attaining the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, is a responsibility that requires all hands on deck. This includes the government, the private sector, international development partners, civil society organizations, amongst others. On today's episode, we are bringing you some impactful participation of some civil society organizations towards the actualization of the global goals in Nigeria. First, we'll bring you the report on the recent meeting between the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs, Princess Adejoke Orilokpe Adefulire, and the United Nations Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Stay with us.
The United Nations has commended the Nigerian government on her initiatives in the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. The Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Amina Mohammed, who received the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals, Princess Adejoke Orilokpe Adefulire, and her team in her office at the UN headquarters in New York, was particularly pleased with some of the initiatives deployed by the federal government of Nigeria in the implementation of the SDGs. The UN chief promised that the global organization will continue to avail Nigeria the needed technical support to mitigate the inherent challenges. From the presentation of the presidential aid on SDGs, Ms. Mohammed was particularly impressed by the advocacy and sensitization efforts of the government to ensure public buy-in and commitment to the attainment of the SDGs. She lauded the institutional framework employed by Nigeria in laying the right foundation for the attainment of the global goals. Nigeria leads as the first country to set up a private sector advisory group for the SDGs, which was followed by the inauguration of the Donors Partnership Forum and the Civil Society Group for the SDGs. A team of SDGs ambassadors and SDGs champions have also been unveiled to strengthen the advocacy and sensitization drive. Princess Adejoke Orilokpe Adefulire assured the UN Deputy Secretary General that the Nigerian government will continue to take the necessary steps to ensure that the country remains on the right track for the attainment of the goal. Another major outing of Nigeria at the sideline of the 63rd CSW, recently held at the United Nations headquarters in New York, was the high-level panel discussions organized by the Bank of Industry in partnership with GSMA, Ford Foundation, and International Chambers of Commerce. Under the larger theme, Social Protection System, Access to Public Services and Sustainable Infrastructure for Gender Equality and Empowerment of Women and Girls, the panel session focused on FinTech, a driver for gender inclusion. The event assembled major players in the gender inclusion and FinTech field. Participants spoke on the issues, challenges, remedies, and prospects of FinTech, with a particular mention of the social intervention efforts of the federal government of Nigeria. Human trafficking and illegal migration has over the years become a major challenge to the global community. The need to tackle was also provided for in the framework of the SDGs. The wife of the Edo State Governor, Her Excellency Betsy Obaseki, through her Center for Youth and Women Development, recently at the sideline of the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women, lent a voice to the global call to end trafficking in persons. With the theme, Social Protection Initiatives, Deploying Digital Technologies and Enterprise for Edo Grassroots Women, the event was attended by both international and local participants. Since assuming office, the government of Edo State has been doing a lot to redeem the lost dignified image of women in the state. This is evident in ongoing interventions aimed at reversing the trend, particularly the use of digital technologies and enterprise for Edo grassroots women. The event drew contributions and suggestions from participants to strengthen the ongoing efforts in the state.
We are the SDG champions in Niger State. We support SDG. Join Tomorrow can be better, but only if we start today. Building a world united and free from war and pain. Together we are stronger in numbers. We can eradicate poverty and hunger. Education, food for all, cleaner energy. We can all do it together, leave no one behind us. Together we are stronger and I think it's stop us. Clean water, sanitation, responsible consumption, climate action, quality education for all. One for all and all for one. We stand united through it all as one. We'll keep marching hand in hand. We'll leave no one behind. One for all and all for one. One for all and all for one.
Peace and justice. One people, no races. No colors, just a world with faces. A world with possibilities, together we got this. We leave no one behind, we take equal paces. Zero hunger, no wars, no crisis. Decent jobs, health care for the masses. Sustainable cities, communities in every country. A world where anybody can be somebody. Gender equality, reduced inequality and animosity. Embrace your humanity. Build stronger partnerships, spread love, stay strong, stick together, cause the world is better as one.
We can all do it together, leave no one behind us. Together we are stronger and I think it's stop us. Clean water, sanitation, responsible consumption, climate action, quality education for all. One for all and all for one. All for one. We stand united through it all as one. We stay united. We'll keep marching hand in hand. We'll leave no one behind. One for all and all for one.
Agenda 2030. As a successor framework for the Millennium Development Goals, the global community rolled out a bigger, deeper, and more encompassing framework called the Sustainable Development Goals, designed to transform our world, lift the poor out of poverty, as well as ensure inclusive and healthy society. On Agenda 2030, we take you on a media trip to the global destination of the future we want. With everyone on board, we focus on the people and their struggle, the civil society and their agitations, the government and her development effort, the Global Development Agenda, its 17 goals and 169 targets. We bring you all the deliberations, insightful conversations and high-level partnerships on the road to global destination. Agenda 2030, showing on this channel. Agenda 2030, leaving no one behind.
Remember, you can always watch this program and other episodes by subscribing to our YouTube channels on youtube.com/Fresh News TV and youtube.com/Agenda 2030 TV. You can also watch the program live on Facebook. Just log on to www.facebook.com/Fresh News NG and www.facebook.com/Agenda 2030 TV. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Agenda 2030 TV on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Remember to drop your comments and share with your contacts. Do use the hashtag Agenda 2030 and hashtag Agenda 2030 TV. Welcome back. The civil society organizations, popularly called the CSOs, play an increasingly influential role in setting and complementing development agendas throughout the world. Many have been in the forefront of advocating principles of social justice and equity. In coordinating the implementation of the SDGs in Nigeria, the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals is actively engaging and partnering with a wide range of organizations and associations whose goals, values, and development philosophies accord with its mandate. The Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals, Princess Adejoke Olilokwe Adefulire, at different fora, have reiterated that the federal government will continue to explore areas of strategic partnership and collaborations with the civil society organizations in the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. In this phase of the series, Agenda 2030 will be spotlighting some of the impact makers.
as part of its contribution to the efforts to ensure massive buy-in for the SDGs, a group, Community Agenda for Peace, recently hosted a media forum to inspire, educate, and create a robust environment for healthy competition amongst various governance structures in terms of achieving the SDGs. Tagged SDGs Media Forum 2019, it was organized with the aim of bringing the United Nations Agenda 2030 and the implementation of SDGs in Nigeria to the center of national media conversation. The Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, otherwise known as the Global Goals, are a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity, requiring huge media buy-in.
The SDGs Youth Hangout is another group that has been making major impacts in the pursuit of the SDGs. The group recently in Abuja collaborated with the Wildlife of Africa Conservation Initiative and the Canadian High Commission to hold an interactive session on marine species, wildlife conservation, and biodiversity management in Nigeria to mark the World Wildlife Day. The report.
Every year, the United Nations and its member states celebrate 3rd of December as World Wildlife Day. The day was set aside by the United Nations General Assembly in 2013 to raise awareness on the dangers of gradual disappearance of wild animals and plants from their habitats and the need to take concrete actions to reverse the trend. This year's edition of World Wildlife Day was commemorated under the theme Life Below Water for People and Planet, which aligns closely with Goal 14 of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. To mark the day, a group, SDGs Youth Hangout, in collaboration with the Wildlife of Africa Conservative Initiative and the Canadian High Commission, held an interactive session in Abuja on marine species, wildlife conservation, and biodiversity management in Nigeria. The event had in attendance representatives from the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals, Canada High Commission, federal ministries, departments and agencies, wildlife documentary photographers, among others. This session highlighted the critical importance of marine wildlife to human existence. This year's World Wildlife Day focused on marine species for the first time. The decision was born out of the realization that marine wildlife has sustained human civilization and development for years, from providing food and nourishment, materials for construction and craftwork, as well as for their cultural, spiritual, and recreational benefits. Recent statistics gave the number of identified ocean species at nearly 200,000, while actual numbers of marine lives may be in millions. Globally, through commerce and natural resources, the market value of marine resources and coastal industries is estimated at $3 trillion per annum, making it about 5% of the world's GDP. It has also been estimated that over 3 billion people depend on ocean for their livelihood. But the capacity of life below water for continuous sustenance of humanity is now being greatly hampered as the ocean and the lives that live within come under threat of extinction due to overexploitation, pollution, climate change, and loss of coastal habitats. These threats, in turn, have a strong impact on humans who depend on marine ecosystem for livelihood. Speaking during the event, Catherine Kidsa Hudson from the Department of Environment, Science, Technology, and Health of the U.S. Embassy in Nigeria says the trend can only be reversed if people are made to understand the roles of aquatic lives in the general ecosystem. Also speaking at the event, Joy Jumbo, Director of Events at the Wildlife of Africa Conservative Initiative, raised alarm over the growing rate of disappearance of endangered species in Nigeria, while calling for proper enlightenment of people on the need to protect and conserve life below water. 3 short movies on wildlife exploitation, preservation, and challenges faced by species below water in Africa were also screened at the session. on how best the country can effectively curtail the illegal exploitation, unregulated fishing, and poaching of endangered marine species. The Special Systems Operations Officer at the National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency, NESRA, Oehi Sevalin, and the Deputy Director, Technical Education, Technology and Science Education Department of the Ministry of Education, Ayo Omolola, gave hints on the steps already being taken to achieve that in the country. Rose Kefas, Technical Assistant to the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs, told the session how the SDGs Office has been contributing towards the actualization of Goal 14 of the SDGs, which is to conserve and sustain the use of oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. Convener of the session, Seyi Adegbote, Director of Advocacy at Wildlife of Africa Conservative Initiative, spoke on how his organization is working to include rural dwellers and those living in riverine areas in advocacy activities and sensitization programs on preservation of life underwater.
Mackenzie Touching Lives International, a non-governmental organization, NGO, has been bringing other passion-driven organizations towards the actualization of the global framework. Chief Executive Officer of the organization, Ijoma Obiajunwa Ajama, also known as Ajay Mama SDGs, gave an insight into the organization's activities.
Talking about some of our works, we visit schools, secondary schools to teach the SDGs. We visit online platforms to teach the SDGs. Yeah, basically, we are trying to make sure that women and youths are not being left behind. Especially the students in the secondary schools. We are teaching them about the jobs of the future, how to prepare for the future, how to prepare for the world at 2030. And then there are opportunities that will exist in the year 2030 which do not exist now. Our organization, Mackenzie Touching Lives International, we're working on Goal 4 of the Sustainable Development Goals, which is the SDGs. Coming from a point of view that people need to understand what the SDGs is all about so that they can be able to be part of it. Knowing fully well that there is a universal call for everyone not to be left behind. So be you an individual, be you an organization, be you an entity, be you an agency, be you a government parastatal, everyone has been called upon to be part of it. Meanwhile, we know that there are some people in our villages at the grassroots who do not even know what we are talking about. And yet, these people are not meant to be left behind. So someone has to stand in the gap and tell them what the United Nations is talking about so that they will not be left behind. And that's what the gap we are trying to fill. By teaching, going up and down on the social media, going to schools, going to communities, to teach them to say there is something called Sustainable Development Goals. We have 17 goals, and this is how you can be part of it. You can do this, you can do this, you can do it. You may not be able to do everything, but even if it's one part of it that you can do, you are also being part of the implementation of the SDGs. And so in teaching SDGs, when we started teaching online, we found out that some youths like creative things, you know. They like to be creative. They like to be active. They don't just want to sit down in class and listen. They wanted to make it in such a way that is fun. And so we got to singing the SDGs. And so we also teach SDGs through songs. And apart from that, we are also partaking, there is a project from Pakistan, Innovate Your Dreams, which we are also taking around to schools and to young people to be part of the global project. And the aim of the project is to prepare their minds towards the year 2030 and the world that we're going to be having after now. Talking about the SDGs, we have 17 goals. If at all you have passion for development, community development, even in your own village, what is it that you have passion for? Bring it onto the table. I tell you, there are other people who also have had those passions, been thinking of it. They don't know how to start or what to do. And they are waiting for you, just you, to come up and say, let's do this. And you'll see them come out and do it. So if you have that passion, be bold. You need boldness. Just stand up for what you believe in. I want you to stand up for change. Stand up for what you believe in. Don't wait for somebody else to come and say, come, let us do this. Be the one to stand up and say, oh yeah, we are ready to do this. And you will see that a lot of people are interested. A lot of people are ready to do it. They're just waiting for somebody. Let that somebody be you, because you are passionate.
Another NGO making impactful strides in the realization of the SDGs is Helen Asimegbe Foundation. The foundation advocates for Goal 8, 2, 3, and 17. Founder of the NGO, Helen Asimegbe, spoke on reasons why well-meaning Nigerians and organizations need to key into volunteerism for the attainment of the SDGs in Africa.
It is my passion to lend my voice on behalf of the underprivileged in society. One of the ways I do this is by showing love and care to the internally displaced persons living in the camps, in the IDP camps in Abuja. The 2 camps that I have been responsible for since the year 2017, since I left the United Nations Youth Assembly in the year September 2017 to be precise. I had started a campaign to show love and care to the IDPs. I have visited IDP camps in Abuja every month since September 2017 down till February 2019. I used to say to myself, I do not have to wait to be seen, to be listed on Forbes magazine or seen on CNN before I begin to lend my voice and share my resources, even from the little I have, with the underprivileged in society. One of the ways by which I advocate for End Poverty Goal, that's Goal 1, is to sensitize people living in the IDP camps on the fact that they are not alone. We have so many people who really and actually care for them. And I support and I lend my voice by providing food and other basic necessities that they need. Also, talking about Goal 2, Zero Hunger, I've taken it upon myself as a responsibility to always make sure that I visit IDP camps every month by donating food and clothing to the people living in the internally displaced persons camp. The ways by which I advocate for Goal 3, good health and well-being, is I always organize sensitization workshops for, most especially for the women in childbearing age. I also organize sensitization workshops for the female IDPs, particularly the ones who have had children and also young girls in the childbearing age. Some of these sensitization workshops could include talking about abstinence, now for the girls in the childbearing age, and also introducing what we call family planning to the women who already have children. I know most of them are not really educated about this thing we call child spacing or family planning. When you go to visit them at the IDP camps, they come complaining to you. This is my 9th child, ma'am. What can I do? So by so doing, we began to sensitize them and educate them on the need for them to space, like develop a culture or a habit to begin to space their children. Sometimes I partner with other NGOs who help with contraceptives, maybe the oral ones they could take, or the injectables. For those of them who are out of supply of the ones we've given them, every once in a while also we add to it again. Also, we talk to them about hygiene. We know as women it's important for you to maintain a great level of hygiene. We teach them on how to take care of their body, and also the pregnant women. We emphasize on the fact that they have to eat healthy, stay in a very, very clean and safe environment for themselves and also for the child they're about to bring forth. So we hold most of these workshops and sensitization on good health. That's Goal 3, good health and well-being. There's been a lot of feedback from the women at the IDP. We've had so many testimonials. Like, some have had to say, good thing we introduced them to contraceptives, like the family planning, routine drugs, either drugs or the injectables. So now they're able to focus, they're able to start petty trade, on their own. Not to say, they're giving birth or taking in after every 9 months. So we've been able to, at least to some extent, curb some of these problems and challenges.
Nigeria will continue to support the United Nations in all its efforts, including the attainment of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. I thank you.
Agenda 2030, showing on this channel. Agenda 2030, leaving no one behind.
And that's our package for the week. Remember, you can always watch this program and other episodes by subscribing to our YouTube channels on youtube.com/Fresh News TV and youtube.com/Agenda 2030 TV. You can also watch the program live on Facebook. Just log on to www.facebook.com/Fresh News NG and www.facebook.com/Agenda 2030 TV. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Agenda 20 TV on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Remember to drop your comments and share with your contacts. Do use the hashtag Agenda 2030 and hashtag Agenda 2030 TV. Thank you very much for being part of the program this week. We'll see you again next week. I'm Toyin Kamiang John. Until then.